The time has finally come. And I don't know why it took me this long, to be honest with you. I guess I just... No, I just genuinely don't know. Sancti Magistar, a relatively mediocre weapon that requires mastery rank 8, does primarily impact damage, and has decent crit with relatively good status. The one saving grace for this thing has always been its passive, because heavy attacks release a 15-meter healing pulse that heals for 5% of the damage done, and you also get 20% status resistance while wielding it. It's available from the new Loka Syndicate for 125,000 standing, though it's also tradable, so you can just buy it from someone else. The reason it's become relatively popular though as of late is because it has an Incarnon adapter that you can farm from the circuit in Duviri. So let's give it a shot and see if it's any good, shall we? I took my sweet time with this one, but it is finally here. Say hello to the Incarnon Sancti Magistar. Wehey. Le bonk. Nice and fast. What do we get? Crushing Verdict, damage, follow through with a channeled ability. Damage, attack speed. Yeah, I think we're gonna go with Edge of Justice. Having attack speed is always nice. I guess we should do some kind of a build here, eh? Let's get Shattering Storm. We're doing a slam build, by the way. Let's get Sacrificial Steel and Pressure, because we're gonna be doing heavy slams, and the sack set gives a ridiculous amount of crit, especially for heavies. Seismic Wave for the slam damage. Organ Shatter for crit damage. We're gonna run Galvanized Reflex because I don't want to do Tennokai, so we're gonna need the initial combo from Reflex. Now this is very lazy, but I want to see if we can get away with running Corrupt Charge as well, because that way the initial combo from this and Reflex will give us enough to activate Incarnon without actually building any combo. Yeah, I guess we just do Prime Fever Strike. That's a ridiculous amount of damage. I don't know how well this is gonna work, but for now let's just do Gas and we can always rethink it later. Afflictions is pretty much the only arcane that's gonna do anything here. So let's run that. Well, did I see that right? Was that 58 million? That's ridiculous. I mean, people did tell me over and over and over again that the Incarnon Magistar is good, but I really didn't expect it to pop off this hard. Those are some chunky slams, look at that. I don't have a clue what I did to get that 50 mil slam. I must have bonked like a fully primed enemy on the head or something. Okay, sure. Now that I really didn't expect. Seriously, just 100% slam radius. Okay, sign me up. I mean, these two are cool, but like, what the plum? I thought we would have to refinagle this, but I'm actually pretty happy with it so far. Let's quickly do one of these. This is the easiest way to do ground finishers, by the way. Look at this. Yoink, and then boop, boop, and, oh, they're dead. We have to go with the high crit, surely. 42% base crit chance is stupid. Like, the other two are decent, but 42% base crit chance is just legendary. I'm not 100% sold on the gas damage yet, so let's try a few things. Especially with the afflictions, like, we don't proc enough status for this, I don't think. That will never get old. Yeah, this could really use more status. This will require a bit of finagling, so what we need to do is move this dash into the Exilus, to move it out of the way. Then we're gonna add a D instead. This way we can always go back if it doesn't work. We run Galvanized Elementalist for the status damage and status chance, and we switch Afflictions to Influence. Okay, might be better in an actual mission when we're hitting more enemies, but here it just straight up doesn't work. We're not proccing enough electricity to even trigger Influence to begin with. Well, back to gas we go. This is why I didn't want to reformat the dash, but rather store it in the Exilus so we can do it like a soul. We're gonna have to get rid of Corrupt Charge, aren't we? I really don't want to do that. Let's try it with the boy. Alright. I think we can hold on to Corrupt Charge just for a little bit longer. I cannot believe I'm about to say this, but the shield boys, they're like actively surviving. What is this? We need more status. I'm not gonna be clouded on by the shield boy, so goodbye Corrupt Charge. Let's swap that D right back in and Galvanized Elementalist. There we go. So that should help with the gas. Now that is what I'm talking about. I'm actually seeing some fart clouds, finally. Oh, that is much better. I would still like to have more status. And we do have the option to change the evolution, but we would lose a lot of crit. Base crit, and crit multiplier as well. I am not entirely sure that melee afflictions is actually the way to go here, because on most hits it's not actually doing anything. Okay, so hear me out here. Afflictions does make the most sense, but I want to try melee vortex. Now, we don't have magnetic on the build, however, we do have magnetic on Harold, and it doesn't need to be your magnetic to trigger vortex. I mean, we're not triggering an awful lot of vortexes, but when it does trigger and we slam into it, it is redonkulous. Yeah, I like this more. It might not trigger very often, but neither does afflictions, because we're just not proccing that much gas. I think I'm focusing too much on the relatively unimportant things, instead of just, you know, having fun with a big old bonk stick. I'm pretty happy with this. This is a solid ass build. By the way, sorry if you can hear the fan in the background. It is currently like 37 degrees Celsius, which is like around 100 Fahrenheit, and I have no air conditioning. I am melting into my chair as we speak. Alright, let's go wrap it up. Okay, so here's what I ended up liking the most on the Sancti Magistar. We actually run a vortex setup despite not having any magnetic on the weapon, and that's because we get magnetic on the enemies from my pet, Harold. The stance doesn't matter because we're doing a heavy slam setup, and for the mods we have Seismic Wave for slam damage, Organ Shatter for crit damage, Galvanized Reflex for the initial combo, Galvanized Elementalist for status damage and status chance, Sacrificial Pressure and Steel for a ton of base damage and heavy attack crit chance, and we top it off with Volcanic Edge and Prime Fever Strike for gas. For evolutions, we went Edge of Justice for the damage, Seismic Slam for the slam radius, and then Critical Parallel for big crit. And finally, let's not forget about our pet. I run a Hound, Good Boy Harold, that primes cold from Coolant Leak, and then Puncture, Impact, Heat, Radiation, Magnetic, and Viral from his butt totem. He's pretty important here because he increases the damage we do by quite a bit, and without him our arcane actually doesn't work. One thing that's worth mentioning with the Sancti Magistar is that its Riven disposition is actually fairly high. It's at 1.25 as of the time of recording of this video. So you can get some absolutely enormous Rivens for this, which is something I sometimes forget about when looking at not so popular weapons. It's mainly because I don't use Rivens in my build so that you guys can replicate them. But anyway, I think this build was kind of a miss, to be honest with you. I was looking at that slam radius with the high crit chance and I thought it would be fun, but honestly I think you'd be better off with either a Tennokai build or just a straight up heavy build. It works, it does decent damage, it will clear Steel Path, but honestly if you want to do a ridiculous slam build, pick something like the Slam POTUS. And that is pretty much it, so I thank you very much for watching, as always guys, and I hope you have enjoyed the video. Then, I would also like to extend a special thank you to all the channel members. Thank you very much guys, I really appreciate your support, it means a lot to me. And I'll see you next time, bye bye.